Let's see if how's better luck in this game.
Yeah, player one, player two makes a pretty big difference in this matchup because having infiltrate is such a big deal. I wonder if so. It looks like Munkbusiness is playing the same deck. I wonder if Sympathy has changed anything because now that your opponent has seen Avalanche, you know maybe you don't need to run it anymore. It's kind of interesting.
They've got all these cheeses that they're trying to play around, and you're just not doing any of it.
hmm I really like this Jaxi. Very hard to prevent. Not that hard to prevent, but kind of hard to prevent ramping to 5 here.
Yeah, Command Cold would obviously take care of it, but you can't just trade in the minion. Funny
Yeah,
enough, in this situation, if your minion had 2 HP, it would be almost better.
yeah. It is kind of interesting. Um, we also saw Flash Freeze last game from Sympathy, so that would do it.
There we go.
I mean, it can be a hard decision um, to know where to put your Jaxi. I've seen people play Finner on the mana tile where the Jaxi is now and directly above their general. I think all of them have you know their own pros and cons, and it depends on the situation. It depends a lot on what you're expecting your opponent to play. It's very complicated.
Emerald Rejuvenator for no healing, and it's oh, and he hits the Jaxi.
Yeah, I mean, I think this can make sense because
It means that it can't trade in, right? To the Rejuvenator.
yeah, absolutely. And also, if they want to ramp to 5, then their 1/1 is not really where they want their 1/1 to be. And I think that probably Vanar has a lot of ways of dealing with this mini Jack, so it's not a huge deal.
Yeah, true.
Another way that Vanar could have dealt with it there is with Cold Biter, right, that we saw last game. I
Yeah.
wonder if they're still playing that. So it didn't. I mean, it was obviously pretty terrible into the into the Sarlacc deck, the Sarlacc Shattered Answer deck. So
Yeah, it's a
maybe
bit of
they
an odd
changed their
choice
deck.
anyway. Uh, but it certainly wasn't good in the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, when we were going over all the old cards, Cold Biter was regarded as like awful, completely unplayable. In the past, we're like, okay, let's go play with it, make sure that it's like a really dumb card, and then we'll start thinking about how we can tweak it. And we played with it, and we're like, hey, this card actually does stuff. Right? This card is not a total joke like it was regarded to be. So that was pretty cool. Card is probably a little bit better than people gave it credit for. This is a really awkward turn by Monk Business here. It's definitely not um, what they would have liked to play because this is just such a good trade for the Rejuve.
Yeah, that's not untrue, but I would counter by saying that if he wants to kill the 1-1, like at the moment the only thing that can do it, that can reach, is the 4-1. So Monk sort of set that up as a possible trade.
And there's also when you're playing the Spirit of the Wild deck, there's a lot of consideration for where your general is. So part of so Sympathy probably wants to move up one with the general quite a bit there to block Monk Business from just running to their starting side of the board. Um, but the general is less useful when they're there. So it can be pretty tricky to try and balance those considerations. But here, I think what it is that Sympathy is saying that they have a bit more inevitability. I do see Pickle there. They have a bit more inevitability, so they're not afraid to just run to get infiltrate, letting their opponent run to their strength side of the board and saying, you're not going to be able to win the game because I have all these chromatic colds and cryogenesis cards. So, it's you're never really going to stick a Shadow Dancer or something, which I think is totally reasonable.
Yeah, no, I do like Monk's like deck's game plan though. It like feels really good. Like I don't think it's a bad late game by any means.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was it's really quite effective, right? When Shadow Dancer sticks around, it's a lot of damage. Basically, it's really hard to win with that on board. There's a lot of counting removal here, where so Sympathy has been through two chromatic colds at this point, and that's pretty much the only answer to Sarlacc. So Munkbusiness is doing a good job baiting those out. But then, of course, Alcuin brings one back. But a lot of these longer games, they come down to these specific key cards, and you have to sort of count them, and find ways to bait them out on targets that are less important than the ones that are really key to your gameplay. Here, this Munkbusiness is adapting well to their opponent's deck because this positioning plays around Coldbiter.
Yeah, that's true. I always um, default to the staircase formation even when it's not good. Like, I have a bad habit of doing it.
Oh, rewarded too. Wow, that's really nice.
It's a full clear and a couple of 2/4s. Do you think he's playing Snowpiercer as well? Because these Komodo hunters, or what are they called? Scavengers?
Yeah.
They're a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, it looks to me like it's just Coldbiters because Sympathy has a lot of more uncommon cards in their deck. We saw. I mean, they must be running Spirit of the Wild. They're running Rhino and Arctic Displacer. They're running a lot of removal. Yeah, I mean, last game we saw Cryo, Hailstone, Chromatic Cold, Aspect of the Fox, and Flash Freeze. We saw Avalanche. So with all these cards in their deck and Crystal Wisp, right? It's like where are they making room for more artifacts, right? I mean, but maybe like one thing that can really keep your opponent sort of off balance and make their life a lot harder is to run a bunch of just unexpected cards, because if you don't play around something, then whatever you're not playing around tends to be quite good. It's just sort of nature of Duelyst cards. So that's definitely a legitimate strategy.
And there's also the possibility, like you mentioned earlier, that he has changed his deck between rounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Gravity Well is very unexpected for me, and that seems like it's new.
It's not bad at keeping your opponent on their side of the board, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes makes a lot of sense. This Archon was really well timed because the game is slow enough right now that you don't really mind if it gets bounced, and besides that, there isn't that much that deals with it. But this turn is really scary because you're not able to leave Infiltrate, or Munkbusiness can't leave Infiltrate, and you can get comboed next turn. That's very dangerous. So Sympathy has done a really good job with the setup. They've executed their game plan very well.
Can heal up to 23 though, and there's a pretty reasonable setup next turn for the Shadow Dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So if they make it through, they'll probably be looking alright coming out the other end.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great point because even if you get comboed, even if Monk Business gets comboed here, they're not dead. And um, this Archon on board is very threatening because the opponent is at 12. But um, it still seems like a very scary position for this team because, especially when you have other things on board, it's not just out of hand, then Spirit of the Wild um, really does wreck you. Like Monk Business here is saved by the fact that they have this artifact equipped. If they didn't have that artifact equipped, then they'd be in much more danger.
Yeah, absolutely. Spectral Blade's so good.
And Monk Business is also positioned pretty well, where the Mystic, if there were no Spectral Blade equipped, um, if you just count damage, it seems like Rhino Spirit of the Wild would kill here, but it doesn't because of the positioning, where you can't position such that the Mystic gets off 2 hits and the General hits you. So that's some very clever positioning from Monk Business here.
Looks like we're not going to see a combo. Just going to deal with this Archon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is credit to Monk Business's defensive play, where Sympathy probably does have the combo here, but realizes that it doesn't win the game, and then Monk Business is set up such that um, they're going to lose if they just leave the Archon up. So it's really good play.
Yeah.
Getting that cold biter value.
Yeah, no, it's been fine this game.
Yeah, I mean that card is, especially when you're playing with gravity wells and stuff, like it makes a lot of sense. So I mean, again, Sympathy is set up a really scary situation here, where it's not so clear how you're going to clear this Arctic Displacer.
Yeah, I think he possibly just doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, with 3 charges on the Spectral Blade, you can say, the Arctic Displacer isn't going to hit twice, so you know, it's not as scary. Though you do need to clear something, otherwise they can run, General and the 2 dorks on board into your face, and then hit you twice with Arctic Displacer.
Yeah, would that do it? Yeah, I think it would, right? Because he can't attack. He can attack twice with one. Oh no, he can't attack twice with any of the minions. Oh, he's gonna. Yeah, okay, this is quite nice.
Yeah, so this is terrifying, right? Because
What would it be? You attack with Fae and the 2 little ones. They'd heal. They'd still be at what? They'll be at full, right? Because Shadow Dance is on the board as well. So they need another minion to Spirit of the Wild.
I mean, it's definitely possible, right? Because so right now, um, with just Spirit of the Wild, Sympathy has 23 right here, or sorry, Sympathy has 22 damage. So the Mungus is going to be at 3 against just Spirit of the Wild.
Monk's gonna
So
heal up from the Spectral Blade and from the Shadow Dancer.
yeah, so I think if you throw in the 2 little guys first,
Yeah.
And then punch with Fae, and then hit Spirit of the Wild hit with Arctic Displacer, then Abyssine is at 3 here. So very, very close to lethal. I mean, basically any minion from Sympathy
Yeah.
would have killed here. I'm honestly very surprised that that Monk Business isn't dead here. Yeah.
We've talked about the Spirit of the Wild a lot, but wouldn't it be funny if he just wasn't playing it? We haven't seen it.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, that's crazy that that Sympathy doesn't have the extra 3 damage here.
Yeah. Really, really nice play to try and set it up. Just barely wasn't enough.
Yeah, that's man. I wonder what their hand was. That they any 3 attack minion or basically any 3 attack worth of minions would kill. Well, I mean, one thing that complicates it a little bit is that if you play like a Crystal Wisp or something, you can't actually use that because if you throw your 2 dorks in and go face with Fae, then you're at 1, and the Shadow Dancer's still on board. So it can't be something that dies to a General Punch. You're just going to die there. So it was a very tricky situation, but it is quite unfortunate that they didn't have the extra damage there.